I believe I might be of service.
David Bowie and underrated aren't two words you hear in the same sentence very often. But what if you did? Although David Bowie has countless hits that are still popular even today, he also has some songs that either should have been hits or are just underappreciated as a whole. David Bowie is one of the most prolific, genre-shifting artists of all time, so not every song is going to work with everybody. But in my opinion, the songs I will be talking about today can stand with the likes of Heroes and Starman as some of the greatest songs David Bowie has ever made. Also, this is in no particular order, although the last song on this list is my pick for the most underrated. If there is one song you think of when you think of David Bowie's 1977 album Heroes, it's Heroes. Heroes being one of the greatest Bowie songs of all time, and the album Heroes being one of my favorite Bowie albums of all time. A lot of songs on this album are, in my opinion, overshadowed by the title track. But none are as underrated as The Secret Life of Arabia. If there is one thing that I love to do when listening to music, it's clap. And this is the best clapping song I have ever heard. The vocal performance, the keys, the lyrics, everything about this song is amazing. I am shocked that this was not a hit single.
Everything's changed.
The opener to his 22nd album, Heathen, Sunday is basically David Bowie's version of In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. The only reason I say that is the drums in the outro, but it has the exact same effect on the auditory senses as In the Air Tonight. Sunday has an intense build-up with an amazing vocal performance from Bowie and one of his most badass lines, "Everything has changed." Heathen itself is an underrated album, but Sunday is one of the best album openers in Bowie's discography, and honestly one of my favorite Bowie songs in general.
Everyone says don't stay in a sad place where they don't care how you are.
And sticking with the same album, we have Everyone Says Hi. You can consider this a popular song in context of the album Heathen and how late in his career it was, but I feel like this song can stand on its own alongside his greatest tracks. Not only is it a bittersweet goodbye song, which I dig those, but it has an infectious melody that gets stuck in your head for hours on end, and I love it. Honestly, if this song was released 20 years ago, it probably would have gotten the recognition it deserves. Also, why was Slow Burn the lead single to Heathen and this wasn't? This song is weird. A highlight from honestly one of his most underwhelming albums, Pallas Athena is an absolute banger. It is mostly instrumental, but the lyrics pretty much being the same phrase, God is on top of it all, that's all. But the ascension that I feel when I listen to this song is immaculate. It may not have the emotional grip that so many Bowie songs have, but it is still a masterpiece in its own way, and is one that I return to way more often than I ever thought I would. But does it stand alongside his more iconic instrumental songs, like from Heroes and Low? Yes. Spoiler alert, I'm a big fan of Bowie's later albums, specifically the late 90s, early 2000s. His 1999 album Hours has received mixed reviews at best. To me, it's great, and its closing track, The Dreamers, is arguably its best song. The Dreamers is a song that is all about the chorus, and The Dreamers has an amazing chorus, along with a strong performance from Bowie. I love this song so much I made a cover band called The Last of the Dreamers. Did we do anything? No, but I still did it. This is a bit unfair, because Toy, Your Turn to Drive wasn't officially released until way later, But even now, it's one of those songs you only know if you pay deep attention to Bowie news. Toy is considered the lost David Bowie album, and it just now released as an altered posthumous album, and its title track, Toy, is its most beautiful song. In my opinion, this should have stayed on Heathen. Maybe it would be more popular, but as it stands, Toy is a song that unfortunately most people never get to know unless they go really deep into Bowie's discography.
I care for no one else but you. I tear my soul to cease the pain. I think maybe you feel the same.
This song breaks my heart every time I listen to it. I don't even want to talk about it, or I'm gonna start crying. For such an early song in his discography, I am surprised we went from this to this in just a year. Listen to this song and get back to me, because this song is a masterpiece, and yes, it's on the same album as Space Oddity, but it is up there with Space Oddity as one of his best songs. And it's up there as one of the saddest songs I have ever heard. And now with another album closer, we have Hunky Dory's The Bowie Brothers. As a song that has to share the same disc with Life on Mars, Changes, and Quicksand, Bowie Brothers didn't have a chance. And even when people mention the deep cuts from Hunky Dory, they don't usually mention the Bowie Brothers. Is this one of his best songs ever? Probably not, but it is one of my favorite songs on Hunky Dory, and should be considered a classic, and one of his best early album closers. Especially knowing that this song was written about David's brother Terry, who had schizophrenia.
All the days of my life, all the days of my life.
Reality is one of David's most underrated albums as a whole, and its best song is Days. Days is a perfect example of why I love David Bowie's later discography so much, because songs like this are just so special. Days to me is a song about owning up to your own selfishness. Its music is very acoustic and at times groovy, but this is also one of the sadder songs on Reality, as Bowie's vocal performance feels like he's singing to someone he may never see again.
The teachers and the football star, it's in his tiny face.
Although this was a successful song in regards to the next day, it should have been more than that. Valentine's Day is not only the best song on the next day, it's one of the greatest songs Bowie has ever made. With lyrics that are extremely relevant even today, a banger of a riff, and a passionate vocal performance, just like most of these songs. This song should be considered a Bowie classic, but it is continuously slept on. For how late in his career David was, it was insane that he could still make songs like this. Did you know David Bowie released an album called Never Let Me Down in 1987? Did you know that that album is absolute garbage? Did you also know that there is one song on that album that isn't garbage? Time Will Crawl is a miracle. Coming up from the depths of this terrible album, this song is actually kind of a bop. It's not as good as any of the hits from his other 80s albums, but just because Time Will Crawl is on Never Let Me Down doesn't make it worthless. I don't think this will go down as one of the most underrated songs ever, but the reason I'm calling it underrated is because of how surprised I am that this song was made alongside the rest of Never Let Me Down.
Of an evening sky, see nothing at all.
Unpopular opinion: 7 Years in Tibet is not only the most underrated song David Bowie has ever made, it might be the best song David Bowie has ever made. Many songs so far I've called up there as one of the best Bowie songs, but Bowie has a lot of amazing songs. 7 Years in Tibet is a contender for my favorite David Bowie song of all time. The build-up, the noise, the chord progression. It is proof that David Bowie does not slow down. This song should have been a hit. I'm someone who adores Earthling and the style David attempted with it, and 7 Years in Tibet is the best it has to offer. One of the best songs Bowie has ever made, if not the best. One of my favorite songs of all time. So those are 12 of the most underrated David Bowie songs in my opinion. But with such an extensive discography, I could easily do a part 2. Like and subscribe if you want to see it. Until then, I will see you in the next day, and the next, and another day.